Today on the pod, I'm joined by Berger, founder and CEO of Mack Weldon, the modern menswear brand that scaled to mid-8 figures. Over the last decade, Mack Weldon has grown from a disruptive basics company into a full lifestyle brand. In our conversation, Brian shares how Mack Weldon evolved its loyalty and bundling programs to balance unit economics with customer retention, why the old DTC marketing arbitrage is gone and what's working today, the decision to move beyond just Meta and Google, investing in brand-level storytelling and top-of-funnel marketing, lessons from expanding into apparel, managing inventory bets, and keeping returns unusually low, and how the brand is thinking about efficiency, AI, and partnerships to fuel its next stage of growth. Welcome to In the Money, an exploration of whether you can still make money in D2C and CPG. We talk to some of the most interesting $5 million to $50 million founders, operators, investors, and acquirers in the space to ultimately answer the question, is CPG and D2C still a good business? Hope you'll enjoy the show. Brian, so last time we chatted, I mentioned that between the bundle and save and the loyalty program, you guys had me so hooked that I bought so many pieces of Mack Weldon undergarments that I actually haven't needed to do a replen in a while. You guys have done a lot of work around the Mack Weldon rewards. How have you thought about loyalty over time?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Loyalty for us in the old days was all about kind of buy more, save more. You spend at a certain level and you can, achieve certain levels of discount. And that was more at sort of the cart level. And then we layered on this component of similar to kind of what the airlines do, where if you achieve a certain level of spend in a certain period of time, then you qualify for certain benefits, including savings for, say, a 12-month period thereafter, once you kind of hit the qualification level. And so we played around with a few different things. And now I would say we're more in a place where we're really bundling at the product, offering incentives at the product level, just in terms of economic savings. And then we have a loyalty program that enables you to accrue points that you can use to redeem for product, more of a typical loyalty program. And I guess really what it comes down to is really trying to balance the unit economics and the impact of your loyalty program to those unit economics with creating something that customers actually care about and that you're able to use to motivate some sort of behavior that you want. And so, and then that is a balance, right? Offering a discount, a blanket discount for customers once they hit a certain level works if you're able to drive a certain level of revenue in that period to cover the cost of that revenue. And so, we spent a lot of time on this. We kind of like where we've landed, which is, more of a traditional loyalty program that customers kind of understand, sort of points-based, and it enables them to apply those points to products and other things. And then really trying to motivate behavior around product categories where stocking up is really the goal, right? And also has a business benefit of obviously driving up average order values for those consumers in those transactions. So, sorry, that's a long answer. Of course, like in our product, it's the plight of making great stuff is that, consumers, they last. And doubling on that is, guys will look for any excuse not to replace their underwear at least. And so that hits us as well. But, I think we try and get people to think about refreshing at least once a year because, hey, man, you deserve it.
Yeah. And do you measure like, hey, we want to get X number of customers into our loyalty program or Y number of repeat customers into our loyalty program because, menswear is competitive and we need to make the Mack Weldon customer or Mack Weldon guy. And so we're really trying to funnel them into the program, or it's, hey, look, it's there if they want it, but it's not something we're necessarily pushing them through.
Yeah, there's two aspects to it. I think for the person or for the customer that really feels an affinity for the brand and cares about loyalty on a level where they're going to, think about the benefits that they're getting when they shop, like those I would consider to be power users and people that we want to make sure that we're cultivating, in very unique ways, because they're going to be the people who evangelize for you and hopefully refer other consumers into into the brand. And then for the consumers who really don't care, or it's too complicated, or they just want to shop and kind of get on their way, the kind of bundle and save feature really, works for them. And so it's not quite a one size fits all. I mean, my general feeling around loyalty programs is that there's a subset of consumers that like engage with them and care about them, and the majority of consumers don't. But that doesn't mean you don't want to think about ways in which to motivate those people in a way that benefits them and also benefits the business. And that's really where the sort of bundling feature comes in.
You've now built a brand of significant scale over the last 10 years. What's changed the most about D2C or e-commerce playbook since Mack Weldon launched, thus what works today?
Yeah, I think there are really three things that I think about. The first is that the marketing arbitrage that we all took advantage of to grow our business has gone away. Like any marketplace, if things are working in that marketplace, it becomes kind of fully priced. That doesn't mean you can't use the same strategies and tactics to grow the business. It just means that you got to think about it differently, and the level of scale may not be what it once was. The second I would say is just competition in general. More brands, lower barrier to entry, more ways to access the consumer. And so you're just sort of like having to deal with that, right? When we started, there was Bonobos, Warby Parker, maybe Tommy John was in the early days. There was not like a lot of people doing what we were doing. And so I think the opportunity to like come into the market with a value proposition that consumers see as unique was much greater then. And then the third thing I would just say related to that is that consumers in general have become so inundated with messaging and product and marketing from every angle of their lives, and certainly in their digital lives, that I just think there's a little bit more of a of an apathy to messaging, right? Like you really have to be thoughtful and creative about how you break through to get on people's radar, because there's just like such a discount, I think, to the usual playbook of things that we use to try and stay top of mind with consumers.
D2C founders, are you bleeding cash before your customers ever see your products? You spend months shipping items, your inventory sits idle, and your margins evaporate in logistics. What if you could slash your lead times and reclaim your cash flow? Meet Portless, the next-gen direct fulfillment platform built for high-growth e-commerce. They don't just store products, they ship directly from China and Vietnam to your customer's front door with a fully local delivery experience, skipping ports, cuttling handling, and making your inventory available for sale in days, not months. Portless offers up to 90% lower inventory lead times by removing middlemen and optimizing routes. A dramatic acceleration of cash flow because inventory is back on sale within 48 hours of manufacturing, reduced inventory risk because there's no need to overproject demand, and true global reach because you ship to 55 countries using domestic last mile carriers. Now here's the promise. Switch to Portless and you're no longer paying for inefficiencies. Go to portless.com, get a free quote, and see how you can reinvent your supply chain. Don't let logistics throttle your brand's growth. Try Portless. Real speed, real savings, real scale. I imagine that's a little bit of what led to kind of the first TV ad and kind of the full depth of storytelling related to that.
Yeah, well, we just got to a place where it became very clear that if we did not invest in top of funnel, market priming, brand level marketing, that we were just going to die a slow death or just like continue to tread water. We're very good at scooping up like in market demand, just given where our origins are, but have always sort of like, I wouldn't say struggled with, but just never really had a cohesive strategy around how to think about, the marketing up the funnel, marketing to sort of prime the pump, both in terms of like how to execute it, the type of messaging you want to put out there, and how to measure and manage it. right? Like you come from a world where like every dollar you put out there, you're looking to really track a specific ROI against that dollar. Top of funnel marketing is not generally that way. And that doesn't mean you can't have economic or analytical discipline around it. It's just different. Like you can't expect the immediate ROI that you see with your lower funnel growth marketing. And so we came to that realization, and we set a strategy coming into this year that we were going to allocate, certain percentage of our budget to a basket of strategies and tactics. And we got everybody aligned to say that like, we're not going to do anything that puts the business at risk or sort of stretches our limited resources, but we are going to do other things. Can't just be about Meta and Google and, that and email. Like we've done that for so many years now, and, it has its place, but it can't be the only thing.
For the 99% of brands that are in the demand capture business, on Meta specifically, give us an insight as to kind of how you thought about it. Was it, hey, we have this 25% MER on Meta, and so we're going to take, 5% off that to put into brand marketing? Was it more kind of high level, and we're going to make a 2% of gross rev bet into brand marketing for the next 12? Like, how did you think about it? What were the steps from there? Was it, hey, we're going to put it all into kind of a single campaign? Was it, hey, we're going to spray it around with some in-person activation? So how do you think about the number, and then how did you think about the rollout?
Sure. Well, I'll just say as it relates to Meta and our approach there, we also made significant changes there, mostly on the creative side. Like we understood that we were vastly under resourcing our creative effort there, both in terms of quantity, variety, and format. And so we entered this year, with a certain level of ongoing, monthly production. And, we've like more than 4x'd that on a monthly basis. And so we're a real concerted effort there to sort of begin to drive that. In terms of how we thought about budget, we, effectively challenged the team to say that we need to invest, call it 25 to 30% of our marketing budget. We need to earmark for activities that we wouldn't be able to track, down to the ROAS or ROI level that we typically look at things. And we need to find that budget from other places. And so we got scrappy, we got creative, and we really rolled up our sleeves, and were able to figure out ways in which to beg, borrow, and steal to cobble together what we felt would be a meaningful enough budget to get a read on whether or not these efforts were actually working. And what we found, we are 6-7 months into this, we have found that when we look at our brand investment, we are making that investment at a equal to better ROAS than we were, when we were not even making that investment. So
amazing.
So definitely working, and it's a function of obviously priming the pump, but also making our lower funnel marketing, more efficient, more effective, because we're hitting customers in more than one place.
Numeral just raised a new $35 million round of funding to make sales tax less awful for e-commerce store owners. Simply put, Numeral is the platform for sales tax. They handle it all for growing brands. Think registrations, ongoing filings, exemption certificates, and end-to-end compliance. There are 3 things in particular that I love about Numeral. To start, they'll collect all of your sales tax notices in mail, scan it, process it, and make sense of it for you. If you run an e-com brand, you know how annoying physical mail is. Second, they pride themselves on white glove service. Customer support is rarely a differentiator, but with Numeral it is. And finally, it all rolls up to their guarantee. With Numeral, your sales tax is filed on time, or they'll pay any penalties and interest charges. That's why I love Numeral, and why brands like 8 Sleep, Mike's Hot Honey, and Ridge trust Numeral for sales tax. Check them out at numeralhq.com. Matt, started predominantly in undergarments as a category. It's now kind of full wardrobe. How much of the Mac customer is still predominantly coming for undergarments, where maybe that's where some of the brand was initially built, versus, hey, I'm head to toe with Mack Weldon now?
That's a really good question, and very topical, because we have found over the last 18 months that the best source of new customer growth for us comes from clothing, like apparel, lifestyle apparel. And not just lifestyle apparel that has like we're not a trendy brand. We stick to sort of like the timeless essentials, and we upgrade that in some way. But, things that, that feel a little bit more trendy. So sweater polo was like a huge thing. It's a sort of a knit, sweater material, but it's built in a polo shirt. And that was a bit of a menswear trend. That was a huge driver of new customer acquisition for us. We launched a blazer version, or an Ace blazer, which was a blazer constructed out of our best-selling Ace jogger. It's this like super soft, peachy kind of material that has been absolutely gangbusters for us. And so we have shown in multiple instances of new product launches that the best source of new customer acquisition for us happens to be lifestyle apparel product. That said, we always, underwear, we are very established there. It is always very much in the mix on both the new and customer retention side of things.
Has returns been a kind of unfortunate byproduct of expanding more into apparel? I imagine when shoppers are buying bundles of 6 to 9 undergarments, it's, hey, people don't really return them. Now we're in the kind of apparel sizing game. I'm curious if there's been learnings around returns.
Our return rates are unusually low, I would say. I think a lot of it is to your point, like we were and we are still selling products that are relatively straightforward from a sizing perspective. And I would say even as we've expanded, it's still not overly complex. Like we make denim now, and so that's a product category where certainly sizing can be tricky. But even in sweaters and different weights of t-shirts, this blazer, it's not a tailored product. So I think there's the expectation that, it's going to fit a little bit more casually one way or the other, depending upon how you like to wear it. So it hasn't been an issue. The short answer is it hasn't really been an issue for us as we've expanded, but we're always mindful of it, obviously. Back to our conversation about unit economics.
That's certainly a benefit when it comes to apparel returns, that if you're making garments out of French terry kind of jogger material, people are happy to be a little bit more comfy and roomy in them.
Exactly. Right. And it's, yeah.
So you've had these successful launches. You still need to balance kind of inventory management and SKU discipline with being on a constant drop cycle and risking kind of overproliferation of SKUs. What's that internal conversation like? Are you kind of being like, hey, let's be prudent, or is it, no, this is working, let's just go for it?
It's very much, it's among our biggest investments that we make, and we can't, I don't think we're unique in this, but we're always striving for success. I think where we find ourselves now is that we're probably willing to make more bets than we have historically been, and deal with the consequences of that, right? On the plus side, something goes well, you're not able to fully capitalize on the opportunity because you haven't made a huge buy. On the minus side, you may have some whiffs, but they'll be smaller impact. Our product and our merchandising strategy is unique in a sense of we don't do seasonal collections. It is more like product launch or drop oriented, less, hypey drop, but like we sort of like, launch products. And it's a combination of expansion of existing fabric platforms into new silhouettes. It's refreshing core product seasonally just to align with color and seasonality. And then it's actual newness. And what we do when we're stepping into something entirely new is we really try and triangulate into what we think the opportunity is by looking at historical performance of like products that we sell. We look at marketplace and see kind of what our competitive set is doing and, kind of what type of success other folks are seeing. And then there's just, of course, the, kind of intuition around we've all worn the product. We all love the product. We all feel like it has a point of view in the Mack Weldon DNA. And so we're willing to make a bet here.
AI. Everyone's talking about it, and you're worried you're getting left behind. Meet RichPanel, an AI-first customer support platform that's built for one thing: making support faster, smarter, and cheaper for e-commerce brands. Something you can actually feel smarter about using. RichPanel combines a unified inbox across email, chat, and socials, a customizable self-service portal that customers actually use, and Sidekick AI, powered by GPT-4, which learns from your past tickets to suggest on-brand replies. Does it actually work? Well, with RichPanel's guarantee, you get guaranteed 30% cost savings when you switch from Zendesk or Gorgeous, 30% automation to reduce your ticket volume, and a no-risk guarantee that if RichPanel doesn't deliver those results in 60 days, you get a full refund. That's why top brands like Ridge Wallet, Jones Road Beauty, and Pella Cases are already using RichPanel to save hundreds of thousands in support costs. Time to start letting AI work for you. Head to richpanel.com and start your free trial today. Real savings, real automation, real AI that actually works. Efficiency has been one of the kind of reoccurring themes in the last 18 to 24 months. Being more efficient with ad spend, being more efficient with kind of operations and team. A lot of brands have tried to grow on the same headcount or even potentially lean things out. Yeah, how do you think about efficiency? And kind of related to that, are you seeing much use of AI to drive more efficiency through operations?
Yeah, it was definitely, it was fun thinking back to the days of being footloose and fancy free with, budgets and capital and valuations and all that stuff. But, fully appreciating that we are no longer in that space. And with it comes all the things that you just said. It has become a bit of a rallying cry and something that has really galvanized, I know myself, but also the team, I would say more broadly. Like people get excited about figuring out better and smarter ways of doing something. And it's not like anyone feels like, oh, I'm going to get penalized for doing it the other way that might have been 2 times more expensive. They're really excited by and incentivized by trying to be more efficient. So having everybody think that way has been, has also been kind of very interesting and certainly very rewarding for the business. To the point about AI, we use it throughout the business. I wouldn't say we use it in any sort of like really advanced ways yet. I mean, it's more typical to how you use it for copy, you use it for post-production, you use it for concepting, you use it for certain aspects of CX. It's obviously embedded into the advertising machines that we run our media through. So there are places where it's showing up. I mean, we haven't quite landed on the thing that's going to perfectly optimize our UX to what consumers want to see. But I feel like we're not quite far away from that. And I think that will be a really interesting application, right? Like, why should you and I be seeing the same version of any website you go to, right? Shouldn't we be seeing one that reflects, certainly for a customer, like what our preferences are? And the fact that everyone's on Shopify and people have become more native to Shopify over the past couple of years, I think really is an important precursor to that. And it's certainly something I'm excited about.
Yeah, it's interesting how that actually hasn't happened yet. I remember Andy Dunn talking about this in 2011, that Bonobos was going to build personalized shopping experiences, images, selection for every new visitor. And what now, 15 years later, that still hasn't quite happened. And I'm not really sure why. Like for all the cookies and data
Yeah,
that exists, why are Brian and Fan not seeing two different websites when they go to,
right.
X Shopify site?
Yeah, and I suppose it has something to do with how content is delivered. I'm not expert in that stuff, but there's this kind of trade-off. I mean, people say UX people say that the single most important thing that matters when you're looking at your conversion rates and your performance of the website is how fast it is, right? And part of the reason why it's fast is because it's you're able to deliver certain things on a localized basis, and so like you're not actually having to pull. And anytime you're pulling unique things, it slows things down. So perhaps that has something to do with it. But I have to imagine that given all of the advancement here, we're probably not far away from a world where we're seeing different. Well, that is being realized. Andy Dunn's great vision.
Yeah. You touched on capital markets a little bit, that, 5-10 years ago, things were a lot more freeing. For a mid-market brand today, I'm just curious, kind of what are you hearing from the market?
I think there's a lot of brands like us that are, scratching their heads about how are we going to make that next jump to the next place. It feels like slugging it out by optimizing your mix and, capturing the benefit of new product launches and, making your business more efficient. Like that's all, like you need to be doing all those things. But I think we're also all looking for other ways to catalyze, our growth in our business. And some of that will come through marketing. Some of that will come through partnerships. Some of that will come from, striking oil on a new product or a new product category. But, growth is hard. Our channel expansion, I mentioned that. So like wholesale, retail, those kinds of things. Because again, unless you have something that is proven and working, your ability to certainly to fundraise against it is very difficult, right? Like if you're a brand, you have 10 stores and they're all printing money, I think going to your PE firm or a new PE firm and sort of creating a thesis around retail expansion is a hell of a lot easier than if you have one or two stores that are, mediocre or breaking even, slightly losing money. Like, you know what I mean? So you gotta optimize, you gotta at least get those stores to a place of profitability or something that people would see as investable in order to expand that type of a strategy.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. Brian, what's maybe been the single biggest win of the last 12 months? Product, channel, campaign, something internal?
I really do feel like it's the diversification of our marketing mix and really starting to think about layering other channels in and other tactics into our marketing mix, really, really starting to see it play out, in the business in a positive way. And some of what I shared earlier, like, we're spending in these other channels, but we're seeing the ROI to be equivalent to, if not better than what it was when we weren't, making that investment. And so I think we feel really good about that. And then the other thing I think we're very excited about is the product side. And that is the idea that for new customers, there's a new doorway into the brand, because for those customers, I feel the leap to what we're known for, what we're famous for, is an easier leap to make than to try and get people who originated in underwear and socks and undershirts and tees to come on over to buy sweaters and denim and things like that. Even if the story's there and the DNA is there, I mean, it's just a harder leap.
Maybe it's the same answer, but is there anything over the next 12 to 18 months? Is there something on the horizon that you're kind of excited to see happen, excited to see roll out?
One of the areas that we've spent a lot of time really trying to build muscle in is within partnership, trying to, not only get better at executing partnerships with other brands or to launch a product or to shine a light on something that we're doing. We have worked hard to get ourselves to a place where we can execute those better. And I think now we're feeling a bit more confident to be more proactive and strategic about who and what we're doing. And the best partnerships come from, being able to have a longer lead time. If it's a product driven thing, you need that to bring something to market that's special. And so as I look to 2026, we have some cool things on the roadmap in that area that I'm pretty excited about, because we have seen, and there's just an anecdote, we did this Summer in the City campaign this summer, and that was less of a partnership, but we aligned ourselves with some reality television personalities from Summer House, and that whole campaign, coupled with the brand marketing and the other things that we've been doing, resulted in a 12% increase to our brand awareness over the last 2 months. And you just don't see that, right? Like, we're not spending at a level that the needle moves in a short period like that significantly, right? Over time it moves, but that's a pretty big jump to make, month to month. So we're really sort of enthusiastic to see that.
In the ultimate small world story, I got introduced to Kyle Cook last week to talk about his beverage brand, and as I was researching, I was like, "Oh, Mack Weldon." That was really cool.
I had some at the event. It's tasty product, and to our conversation earlier, I mean, the packaging is beautiful. I feel like that's half the battle, right?
Yeah, totally. Well, maybe that's a good segue to our final question. Is there anything you're looking for from listeners? It sounds like, potentially partnership opportunities, channel partners, collaborators, anything else to accelerate Mack Weldon's next phase?
Yeah, I mean, one area that we're continually trying to grow is our wholesale business. Many of our peers that have been successful, broadly speaking, a consistent thread is usually that they have a more robust wholesale business. And that is something that, for those of us who originated as DTC, digital first brands, we're kind of less inclined to, but it actually is a pretty important part of the mix for a whole bunch of reasons. So, that's always an area where we're looking for expertise, and menswear in particular has its own quirks. And so, that's just a place where we're always looking to be smarter and to get better. And I think each year we progress, but it's certainly not as fast as we would like it to be.
Brian, this has been awesome. Thanks so much for coming on, and look forward to next time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.